Yes, this is live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Miller. Special guest today is Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniella Levine Cava. Thank you very much for being here, Mayor.
Always a pleasure, Michael.
So there's a lot of stuff that's going on, a lot. So the first question is, what's important?
Okay, well,
not in any particular order.
Well, certainly I do care about our teeth. I think the community knows that I am working hard to try to make sure that we can continue to have good dental health. And I'm very, very disappointed that the state has now preempted us, and we're expecting the governor to sign the bill. So I had worked hard to learn everything I could about fluoride before I vetoed the local legislation. And I was hopeful that the commission would sustain my veto and we'd be able to continue providing fluoridated water.
So sometimes people want to know, how does this just pop up? We've been on fluoride for how long?
Almost 70 years.
Almost 70 years. And all of a sudden, something happens, right? And there's scientific evidence on this side, and maybe there's something on the other side.
Not really. But that's the problem. It's misinformation for sure. And why? Why are they doing that? Generally discrediting science, discrediting government agencies that rely on research and science. I think you could see it across the board, and certainly it is now affecting our ability to protect people's teeth.
Well, I'm trying to breathe deeply during these times when I look at that.
Yes.
So some of the big changes that have taken place in government, we have a sheriff for the first time since 1966, if I remember right. The last election back then was 1962, right. If I believe correctly. By the way, we found some old newspapers from 1962 or whatever it was. We were going through some of them the other day. So we have a new sheriff, we have a new elections supervisor, we have a new tax collector and a property appraiser. What does that mean for...
And clerk and comptroller, don't forget.
Yes.
Five of them.
That's a big change. It's gigantic. So what does it mean to the governance of the county, and how does that affect the mayor's office and all of us?
Well, this was passed as an amendment to the Constitution by the people of Florida. It required a 60% approval, and it was not passed actually in Miami-Dade County, but the rest of the state got to vote on whether there'd be an independently elected, and all five. Actually, two of them had already been independently elected, right? The clerk and the property appraiser had already been, but they were more closely aligned with county operations. Now, the three new elections, tax and sheriff, brand new offices in some cases, new personnel in some cases, new programming and new branding, many things that are adding cost to the bottom line for our residents, because it all comes from the same pot, which is our property tax revenue.
So I understand the sheriff's offices wanted some $30 million to do the things they wanted to do. Is that the figure that you're familiar with?
Well, we just received yesterday the proposal for next year's budget. So yesterday was the deadline to receive from various of the offices. So we'll have to be reviewing that. We'll put together a total budget package that will include the other operating expenses that are still within Miami-Dade County government, as well as those that also come from the same pot. As I said, the tax collector has a little more time under the state law to present the budget, his operating budget, but he's working with us very cooperatively so we can plan. The way the tax collector works is he gets 2% off the top of all tax collection. So we didn't have that before. That's a big reduction in the dollars that had been used for general county operations. So he can't spend it all at one time, if you will. So he has expansion. He's opening local offices. He's improving the Department of Motor Vehicles, right? Those offices as well. So he's doing a lot of things that cost money. And if he doesn't spend that 2%, then it comes back into the general.
Is this the office that was in charge of the driver's license bureau, where there were the long lines, and then people apparently were paying somebody to wait in line?
Yes, unfortunately, that was a state operation, which was not funded adequately. And so instead it got transferred to the tax collectors, and now they are trying to improve it.
From a state level, that was the number one thing people couldn't stand about the driver's license, the wait.
Yes.
That was the number one thing. How long?
Or you couldn't even get an appointment, right? You could wait in line.
So now they gave it to the county. The county's got to figure out what to do.
That's right, the tax collector. But again, the tax collector can take 2% off the top of all the property tax that's assessed and collected. And so they have some dollars to do that.
So we have an issue down here with our waste to energy and our recycling program. Before we get to the what might have been an option in Doral, which seems to be out, I was reading the other day about there was a piece of property on 136th Street and 127th Avenue that the property owners are considering making the zoning available for a county operation. Is there anything you can share about that?
So the county commission opened up the process to hear more ideas, right? We had worked with a consultant. They had come up with locations for a waste campus, which was what we were seeking, not just for incineration, but also for recycling, composting, anaerobic digestion, repurposing, many things that we could do.
Never knew you know so much about that.
Oh my goodness, I've learned so much in this job. Let me tell you, it's been really a PhD course. So we opened it up and we received a lot of different ideas. April 15th was the deadline. Our consultant is reviewing all of them and is putting them forward with analysis. And then my team will be making recommendations to the commission and they will vote in July what will be the final option, if you will.
But this has nothing to do with Doral.
Well, yes, it does. So if we are going to build a new state-of-the-art waste-to-energy facility, which they have up, by the way, in Palm Beach, and they're apparently building another one, and is all over the world operating into very, very high environmental standards and is safe from what we've learned. If Doral would have been one possible site. I hadn't initially recommended that because of a variety of factors. We faced headwinds on other sites, and eventually I recommended continuing to landfill, but we are running out of space for landfilling in the county, so it would have to be in Okeechobee, where, by the way, they're happy to take our trash. And for the long term, there was a lot of capacity there. That to be said, now the state legislature is also passing legislation that would not allow the construction of a waste-to-energy facility within a mile of residences within the same county.
Carefully orchestrated.
You know, people are on top of this. This is something that people really don't want in their backyard.
So you were a social worker a long time ago.
I'm still a social worker,
Right.
Mike.
Yes, that's true. I'll bet it was a whole lot easier to deal with the people. And all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but then you worked your way into it. You have people that are expressing themselves, similar views and opposing views. And certainly it seems recently the waste energy issue seems to have put a fire, if you will, under people to speak up.
No pun intended, right? Since our plant did burn down.
All right.
Yes.
So when I look at it, I'm thinking the county's spending about $500 million a year to move this garbage that we're using up to the middle of the state where it's being distributed. In my soul, it seams so barbaric that we're doing that. And we can't figure out a way to reduce that.
Exactly. So I'm a big recycler. I'm a big refuse, reduce, recycle, all of the options. The last thing in the world is to throw it away. And we produce twice the national average of garbage per person in Miami-Dade County.
That's because of what?
Tourism is apparently a big factor. It's kind of a throwaway culture, if you will. But especially now, with all this takeout operation that we've become particularly addicted to post-COVID or during the COVID period, we just produce a lot of stuff that can't be recycled. So, and we don't recycle right. So we are working on that. But the most important thing is I launched a zero waste initiative. And we've hired a consultant. They're already hard at work looking at all different ways, including the public education, awareness, everything we can do to reduce our waste.
As you may know, I sit down with the folks from solid waste and recycling quite frequently. Out of my frustration of wanting to do something, we bought a composter for inside the house, and it's wonderful.
Yes, we compost at my house as
well. And
well.
it's just like, well, that's one of the things that we can do. And
Yeah.
there I am cutting the strawberries, taking the leaves off and putting them in there. And it's really pretty neat.
Yes.
All right. It does not smell. Apparently it dehydrates everything pretty rapidly.
Mm.
And when we get done, we take it out, we put it in the plants. I'm waiting to see if it makes a difference. But
Yes, it's very good for the plants.
Yeah. And so what I will realize is, how do we reduce what we do, and rather than taking all this stuff and dumping it someplace.
Yeah.
I continue to see the figures on the recycling program, not just here in Miami County, but also in the city of Miami, where they're talking about the percentage of the items that are put into the blue carts
Right.
that wind up getting recycled. It seems like it's a relatively small amount.
So a little bit about recycling. It's called contamination. You're talking about wish cycling. People think, oh, it's plastic, I'll put it in the bin. When we get high rates of contamination, that has to go to the garbage pile. So it's ineffective, it's inefficient, and we're not, and it's not achieving its purpose. So that's why it's so important for people to be educated correctly. But by the way, things change. Now you can recycle your pizza box.
Yes.
As long as it doesn't still have the pizza. Okay. You can recycle more different kinds of plastic containers than you could before, just because it's got that little triangle and is what I could say, it's recyclable, but there's no market for it.
Yep.
So that's what it has to be, something that we can actually send for some repurpose is what makes it recyclable.
I understand that there's a, if you put the wrong stuff in the blue cart, that you could get a notice of violation.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. And a fine. We give a warning and then a fine. And we're also working with cities who participate in our recycling program. Many cities do, to have them help us with the enforcement.
When I look at it from the outside, I go, so we're going to, if the people don't do it right, we're going to punish them, and so they will just stop recycling. Has that been a mindset as far as the conversation?
I think first of all, we've added a new sticker with the updated what's recyclable and what's not. So all new bins go out with that sticker, which I personally had input on what would be on that sticker. But as part of a larger education campaign, we warn people, we take away their recycling bin. So if they're not going to recycle right, we just take away the bin.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah,
Which I never
because
thought.
it's just totally ineffective and inefficient.
Yes. One of the things I like about the solid waste department, the people can take their home chemicals and take them to a place and
Yes.
just get rid of it properly. And speaking about getting rid of things, we have in Dade County over 100,000 septic tanks, and more or less about 9,000 or 10,000 that are of urgent.
Yes,
All
exactly.
right. What are we doing about this urgency that we sent?
Yes. Well, it is expensive, and especially if you're far away from one of the main lines. So once we build down a street, it's the obligation of the homeowner to connect. So we are building out more. We have been, I think, what is the number that we actually have at some stage of conversion? It's over 1,000 that are in process, and we work with homeowners to be able to help them financially, and we get grants to help us with that.
I know the Northeast end, there was some of that that's going on, but for the people that are out west, sort of, right?
Mhm.
Is there anything realistic that's going to happen to those in the next 5 or 10 years?
There are new guidelines for a cleaner septic that's, I guess, above ground, because really the problem is when the water table rises and now you've got compromised septic, and then what's in there is polluting the groundwater or going into the canals and then out into the bay. And then we have seagrass die off and fish die off. And we have not had a major fish kill in quite a few years because we've been extremely aggressive about the septic to sewer, about monitoring for nutrient runoff, eliminating fertilizer during the rainy season, monitoring construction sites. So we've been very active in reducing the amount of nutrients that go into the bay, which is what kills the seagrass and the fish.
One of the things we all recognize is that we have to train our little children to be acutely aware of littering and dumping. My 10-year-old was in the Gables waterway. They live on the waterway in a kayak where he visits the manatees, and he comes back up. He says, "Grandpa, I found some trash. I was so moved, right?
Yes.
That he did that. It's like, congratulations,
And
we
he
got
showed
through.
it to you. He was so proud.
Yes, it's like,
Yeah.
way to go. It was thrilling to see that it
Yeah.
got into that family. They were acutely aware because they live on the water and they look in the water and they know what kind of trash that happens,
Yeah.
and he sees the manatees out there and enjoying it. So I hope that the county puts together some program where the little kids can learn where to be long term. May is Mental Health Month.
Yeah.
Can you share with us some of the things that this county can provide to help people that are having a
Yes.
difficult time?
Yes, thank you so much. And also, I'm a public interest lawyer as well as a social worker, by the way, and I'm part of the suicide awareness effort that we've launched together with NAMI, the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. So you'll start to see some of my posters, and I don't know whether there'll be a billboard or not, I don't know. But anyway, we have a message that we've been sending out. So vitally important. We're living in a time when people have more anxiety and depression than ever, higher suicide rates, and people are isolated. It's actually a national epidemic, isolation.
How was that?
Well, our previous Surgeon General declared it as an emergency, and we are going to be doing more. You know, we have a great social services arm in the county. We have a particular focus on mental health services. We're working on creating a stigma-free county for us, particularly starting out with our own employees. We want them to know we're here to help, that we do have resources to help them. And think about our first responders, our police, our firefighters. We've had some very, very sad incidents. A recent suicide of a firefighter was not my first on my watch. Very, very upsetting. The stress that they endure, the fact that they don't always seek the help that would assist them as they're going through the trauma.
Let's talk about that stigma thing. You know, years ago, Michael Phelps got on, and I'm having some problems, and some on biases have some problems. It's moving up slightly, but we really need to put it up front so there can be that conversation.
Completely agree.
Wait, we did a lot of work last month on National Autism Awareness Month, and it was real thrilled to be able to have that conversation and bring experts out. And we probably have done 10 different times on that. And what I hope to do for the month of May, I know I got to get on the stick, is to bring more awareness to that.
That's great.
So I know somebody from our office has been calling somebody in your office, see if we can get some experts to come down and to talk about it.
I have a dedicated staff person in my office who focuses on mental health issues, as well as we have the department that actually provides mental health services.
Yeah, and so often we say, okay, the first responders, I don't know. I look at some of these teachers, I don't know how they handle it, right?
Yes.
Especially the kids that are misbehaving. And
I heard they've just planned to cut dollars from the federal budget for mental health services in the schools.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, that I saw in today's news.
And that only takes 6 months to 3 years before that comes back to hurt so many families. And we understand the impact that suicides, can have. Jen Herrera does a show with the fireman's wife.
Yes, exactly.
And I personally have known 4 or 5 people that have terminated their life earlier. And when I talk about it, I think, what did I not see it? No, of course I didn't see it. I mean, they weren't laying on the floor, right? They were having the conversations. All of a sudden, something that happened, and we know that one of the a police officer, had an incident where he shot himself, and you look at those people, strong macho men, right? And that was the farthest thing that we would expect from that. So often we are able to hide that awareness. I spent many years in therapy just trying to figure out who I was, where I was going, and finally,
you found it.
I did.
So glad.
Okay, so the county has a show here. We're pleased to be able to offer the Strive 305, and tell us about that initiative.
That is my small business support program. I'm thrilled about it. I started it actually as county commissioner in District 8, and then I expanded it as mayor countywide. It's very ambitious to reach 75% of all small businesses in the county, and we are a small business economy. It's just going gangbusters. I brought in Manny Sid. You might remember Manny.
Of course.
He ran against me for mayor.
Gentleman's gentleman.
Yes, and he's very knowledgeable about small businesses and their needs, and he's advocating for improvements in the permitting system and cutting red tape. And he's really been able to help us identify a number of things that will help our small businesses. But in addition, the Strive 305 program with Anthony Bonami, who also leads that effort, is going all over the county and visiting businesses where they are. They created a new component called the Ambassadors Program, where people, everywhere I go, I'm meeting someone else who says, oh, I'm an ambassador. And they have real pride in reaching out to helping the small businesses, whether it's marketing or access to capital or technology or financial help. So, and I personally, last month was Small Business Month. I was all over town visiting small businesses as well. And we also have a website that is connecting small businesses to those resources with Wells Fargo's support. And we just launched an AI component, which helps businesses navigate the permitting process, not just in Miami-Dade County, but across the cities.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And speaking about AI, whoever doesn't get on board, in a couple of years, they're going to be really off board. It's really tremendous. And we see the kind of changes that are occurring. A lot of local schools have that. Miami-Dade has programs in that. I like the one they put it together for your program. So, and it's inexpensive. So, and I tell our folks, you got to have a working knowledge of it. And if you think the internet changed the world, this has already happened. Yeah. Let's talk about not just traffic, but mobility around Miami-Dade County. It's tough, but it is what it is. How do we figure out better ways to handle the getting around town? And can you address the issue as far as the Kendall Parkway?
Well, the only solution to traffic is transit, because we really can't build roads to accommodate the increase in cars. It's very interesting because the population has really not increased that much. We've had out migration as well as in migration, but apparently more people are on the road. So exactly, I was told, oh, more things are happening around town, so people are going back and forth. But we have to get people out of their cars, and we have made huge inroads with transit improvements. In fact, we had a 10% increase in transit ridership from pre-pandemic levels, which is unprecedented in the country. Nobody has achieved that. And we went from being the 15th largest to the 10th largest transit system in the country. Now, that might surprise you that we're the 10th largest transit system in all of the United States. So we did something called the Better Bus Network. We redesigned all the bus routes with some resistance, I'll say, but it has led to more frequent ridership, more reliability in the most trafficked routes, as well as we've added all kinds of innovative services for last mile. Of course, you know about freebies, but we also have Metro Connect on demand, smaller circulator routes, so many things, and we're continuing to improve, and that's what's led to the 10% increase. We've got the transit-oriented development. You see it up and down US 1. People are moving to these facilities. There's fewer cars. You need less parking space because they're relying on the Metro Rail. We've got the 836 dedicated busway that is extremely popular. It goes from Dolphin Mall and from Tamiami Park and Ride, and people are riding it. And now the South Dade Transitway, Bus Rapid Transit, will be opening this summer.
Is there a real conversation about don't take a car, don't drive your car, take an Uber or Lyft?
Well, honestly, Uber or Lyft is also a car. Yes. Let's just make that point clear.
Yes.
So, they're fine. Those are options. But what we really want is for people to try transit, use it where you can. It is really an improved system. Somebody was recommending to me the other day to make bus riding more sexy, if you will, more fun. And I've been wanting to showcase prominent people that ride transit, but I think there's something to that, make it more fun. So we've got, for example, at our Metro Rail station downtown at Stephen P. Clark Center, we've got musical interludes there, and to celebrate people getting on the train.
I understand you're going to do a mosquito thing, speaking of downtown.
We do have a mosquito event coming up.
Yes, you do.
And so we'll be letting people know it's mosquito season. I was telling them what I love most about that event every year is that some guy who works in the mosquito control area, puts his hand in a box that's filled with mosquitoes
Yes.
and lets them bite him. I don't know if he just doesn't, the itch doesn't bother him or what, but it's an interesting
Yes,
way to
it
get
is clever.
attention. Yeah.
So speaking of transit, we have two huge transit vehicles down here called the airport and the
Yes,
seaport. Let's
yes.
talk a little about the improvements that are going on at the airport.
Incredible, Michael. I inherited a neglected airport, needed love. And we were able to get the airlines to agree, because they are really the funders of how we do
Yes.
things at the airport, get them to agree. And we also got some good federal and state dollars, a $9 billion investment. And it's a facelift, but it's more than that. We have a new terminal K coming on board. Of course, elevators and escalators, that's everybody's concern, because you don't want to be lugging around your luggage. We are now at 95% operational elevators and escalators, which is really significant because a year ago it was 85%. So things are coming along. Many of those were very, very old. I'm 69. I'm proud of it. There was an escalator 69 years old that had been operating until shortly before my visit. I couldn't believe it. The lifespan is supposed to be 25 years or so. 69
managed
years.
to squeeze a couple generations.
They managed. So, many of these are taking longer because they have to be replaced. And they're all proprietary. You can't replace Otis parts with the other one's parts. Everybody has their own. And but we are getting there. We've got, I think, almost 40 new bathrooms, new jet bridges, and they're glass. So very lovely going to the airplanes. A new hotel coming on, a new parking garage.
How many cars are going to go in that parking garage?
I think it was like 2,200.
Yes. So there are going to be over 11,000 spots going to be available.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's the number one thing, parking. But the real question that people always ask at the airport on the way in and out is, where's the bathroom? So congratulations.
The bathrooms are great.
Okay.
I've inspected.
So, let's see what else we have here. So what does the next 5 to 10 years look like?
Oh, goodness. Well, we have to figure out what's going on at the federal level, because we're keeping track and we'll be releasing some data soon on the impacts on county government of the various cutbacks at the federal level. These are real programs that affect us. Everything from disaster preparedness and resilience programming to Head Start program to summer food programs for kids. It's just a range of things. So we have to really take that into account. We are also having a smaller county government because of what's happening with the 5 constitutionals that we discussed. They're taken from the same pot. We're having to do more with less, if you will. We also have the state that's talking about whether we should eliminate property tax. Now, we cannot run local government without property tax. So obviously we hope that people will understand, if they want public safety, police, if they want teachers, if they want roads, parks, everything, we need a source of revenue for that. We're working on our WISE program. I have a program that is WISE. It stands for workforce. I is investments in tech. S is savings for businesses, and E is efficiency review. So we are working very diligently to reduce the cost of our operation. So the future is going to be a more streamlined, more modernized county government, but we also have to take care of our people.
Yes.
And our environment.
And we're going to wrap up in just a moment, but let's talk about some improvements at Jackson Memorial Hospital, which is our star down here.
Yes, for sure. We have so many things to be proud of. Someone was going over it the other day. We have the best health system. We have the best homeless assistance program. We have the best affordable workforce housing development program.
Including at Jackson, they're going to put up some apartments.
Yes, they're partnering with us to put up housing. And we also work with our school system to put up housing that will particularly benefit the workers in the school system. So we're doing so many things in a creative, collaborative way. I just had breakfast this week, which I do on a regular basis, with our superintendent, Jose Dotras, and the head of the Children's Trust, Jim Hodge. And we collaborate for the the well-being of our children. We come up with ways to do better programming, scholarship programming, training programming, health programming. That's who we are. We work together to address our community's needs.
Okay, so you were just reelected to a 4-year term. So it's not quite, it's a little bit over, you know what's coming, about 3.5 years left.
Yes.
What happens next?
Well, I am very dedicated, as you can imagine, you've heard, to taking care of business. I have a very aggressive plan for things that I'm going to achieve that will have a lasting impact here in Miami-Dade, and that is my focus.
Well, you've been making a huge difference.
Thank you so
Mayor
much.
Cava, thank you very much for your time.
Always,
Appreciate it.
always a pleasure.
Continued success.
Thank you.
Folks, again, thank you for joining us. Remember, take care of yourselves and your family. Have a good day.